be threatening ambitions unless we want to remain a backward country with third-rate institutions. Well, happily, the Constitution demands. Reconnecting with the public. The judiciary has historically appeared distant and remote from the public. In the past year, the judiciary has undertaken measures to promote public engagement by its juridical and administrative branches. The annual Judicial Marches Week, which was marked in all court stations around the country, was launched to inform the public of how the institution works and receive feedback on how to do better. Judges gave lectures at institutions of higher learning. Staff visited prisons and children's homes. Students and the public were encouraged to visit courts and learn more about what we do. We also established the Office of the Judiciary Ops Person in August 2011 to receive and respond to complaints from staff as well as from the public. Since then, the office has received 9,773 complaints from the public. Of these, 5,256 files, representing 54%, have been successfully closed. There are still 2,227 files still open and are being processed. The most common complaint is inadequate quality of service, followed by failure to find case files. As the office expands throughout the country, every court will have a customer care desk. The complaints received sometimes touch on other arms of government, and the DPP's office and the Commission on Administration of Justice have been the most responsive in dealing with our referrals. I want to thank them. The office can be accessed through email as well as short text message on the short code 5834. 5834. The short code, as well as the mobile phone traffic court fines payment system Fine Chap Chap at the Kibera and Milimani law courts, are some of the radical but simple uses of ICT being employed to increase access to justice, and they will be rolled throughout the country. Next year, all the high court stations in the country, as well as all the magistrate courts in Nairobi and the Judicial Training Institute, will be linked by cable to a single network that enables staff to send and receive information online. By the end of the current financial year, all stations are expected to be on the network. The judiciary is besotted with technology because it has the ability to increase efficiency, reduce opportunities for corruption, and save costs. Various case management systems have been tried in Eldoret, Kapsabet, Machakos, and the Court of Appeal in Nairobi. Once lessons from these pilots have been absorbed and upgraded, an upgraded case management system will be launched in these stations by the end of this year and extended to Mombasa and Kericho before rolling out to the rest of the country over the next 3 years. New courts to however be expected to be ICT ready from the first day. The judiciary in the first phases of piloting audio visual recording system at the Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, and selected high courts. After the pilot, there are plans to extend the project to 300 courtrooms across the country over the coming years. Now, infrastructural development and access to justice. Heavy investment in physical infrastructure has been one of the main areas where we have had interventions the past 1 year. Keenly aware that many places in Kenya remain disadvantaged in accessing courts, the Judiciary has launched a mobile courts initiative to increase access to justice for underserved areas. The High Court in Kitale will supervise and deliver mobile court services to Kapenguria, Lodwar, and West Pokot. The Busia High Court will serve Budalangi. The Homa Bay High Court will oversee Mbita, as well as the Mfangano and Rusinga Islands, while the Kisii High Court will supervise Migori. Garissa will supervise mobile court services in Dadaab, Wajir, and Mandera, while Malindi will be responsible for Mpeketoni and Lamu. The High Court in Machakos will oversee mobile services for Mwingi, Kitui, and Mutomo. I'm sure my county fellows have heard that bit. By June 2011, there were 16 High Court stations and 111 magistrates courts across the country. The law requires a High Court in every county. In the past year, 4 High Court stations have been established in Homa Bay, Garissa, Keregoya, and Murang'a. With a budgetary allocation from the government in the current financial year, the Judiciary will construct a further 3 High Courts, raising the number to 23, with priority given to areas that were previously marginalized. It is anticipated that subsequently, ongoing negotiations with the World Bank will yield resources to finance the construction of 10 more High Courts in the next 6 years. In that time, it is hoped that budgetary support from the government will finance the construction of the remaining 14 High Courts so that every county has a High Court. 2 magistrates' courts have been opened in Shanzu and at Mavoko Weybridge this year. The Judiciary aims to construct a magistrate court in each of the 285 districts in order to take justice closer to the people. There is therefore a shortfall of 172 magistrates' courts. As a media-term strategy, the Judiciary is building 11 prefabricated courts, even as it continues with the scheduled construction of courts. Subsequently, a further 30 prefabricated courts are expected to be built in the next 6 years, using finances committed by the World Bank. To ensure integrity in the construction process, value for money, and functionality of the constructions, the Judiciary has now developed the Judiciary Construction Guidelines. In the same vein, the Judiciary is reclaiming its property, which has fallen into private hands. We thank the Ministry of Lands for its cooperation in this regard. Case load management. I would like to report on how we have managed our caseload across all courts: Supreme Court, Court of Appeal, High Court, Magistrates, and County Courts. 428,827 cases were launched between June 2011 and June 2012. Some 421,134 cases were finalized in the same period. On average, we are concluding 1,700 cases every working day, but a similar number was being filed. The pending cases carried over were 802,570. The details for each court are in the annual report, which we will distribute. During the period under review, the justice to population ratio was 1 judge for every 500,000 Kenyans and 1 magistrate for every 90,000 Kenyans. Emerging from such a complex background, it's little wonder that one of the commonest indictments of the Judiciary is inability to dispense justice without delay. Whatever reasons for the delays in the past, the Constitution now demands that justice shall not be delayed. Administrative and judicial processes were initiated last year to conclude cases that have been in the court system for years. A deliberate, innovative approach was adopted to tackle case backlogs and deliver the quickest benefits to the Kenyan public. In adopting the rapid results approach, the judiciary used the Court of Appeal as well as in 5 divisions of the High Court as sites of experimentation. Using this method, out of the 58,800 cases captured as backlog in these superior courts, 30,670 were disposed of in just 100 days. The more enduring lesson from the Rapid Results Initiative was that the judiciary was grossly understaffed and operated at 47% of the established staff capacity. Percentages have a way of covering the truth until it suffocates. So I will speak plainly. Every person who worked in the judiciary was expected to do the jobs of 2 people. Where there were supposed to be 70 judges of the High Court, there were only 42. Where the establishment figure for magistrates was 880, there were only 330. And where the system was designed to function with 8,800 administrative staff, there are only 3,500. In the Information Communication Technology Directorate, 1 worker bore the load of 5 people. Many of the staff have received neither pay rise nor promotion for 10 years. Often, staff were required to combine several roles, such as magistrates also supervising court construction, and the members of the support staff required to act as court clerks. The artificial staff shortage created a dysfunctional system that could not deliver on its mandate. In response, the Judicial Service Commission embarked on an aggressive recruitment program, focusing first on the senior staff levels as outlined above. Leadership and transformation. Under the Judiciary Transformation Framework, a countrywide series of culture change workshops for staff in all stations began in July 2012 by democratizing, decentralizing, delegating, and devolving. In less than 6 months, over 30% of staff have been introduced to the Judicial Transformation Framework. The rest will be reached by early next year. Stations have embraced change and transformation, but we have also highlighted the urgent need to strengthen technical and managerial capacity at that level. Technical and managerial capacity is uniformly distributed between and within regions. Responding to this need will be a priority in the next financial year. Leadership in the judiciary is shared, as representative leadership and management committee at the headquarters brings together the managers as well as the representatives of staff at all levels. Similar management committees are active and each court station across the country. In addition, the judiciary has adopted devolution as one of the prime principles undergirding its transformation. To this end, the judiciary has coalesced court stations to 7 administrative regions for efficient and effective administration. Finally, an organizational structure is being developed that clearly delineates judicial functions from administrative ones and supports the effective devolution of the judiciary. The Office of the Chief Registrar has vertically delegated responsibility to 5 registrars and horizontally between 7 directorates. All 12 new position orders are now in place, playing a crucial role in leading the judiciary's transformation. A professional judiciary transformation secretariat, headed by a judge, has also been established to coordinate the overall transformation. Staff development. Human resource is the most important asset any institution can have. In this regard, I have some sobering news. In addition to the shortages of staff leading to overloading of individual tasks among our staff, our capacity has been low and our terms and conditions have been pitiful. Low pay and poor benefits undermine performance in the judiciary. To address this, the comprehensive pay review for judicial officers and staff was completed, fully costed, and approved for fairness and affordability by the Judicial Service Commission in early 2012. This proposal has been submitted to the Salaries Remuneration Commission for approval as required by the Constitution. Last week, the Judicial Service Commission provided the latest data requested by the Salaries and Remuneration Commission on job evaluation, skills, and competence. We urge the Commission to move with speed in considering these proposals, for there is no doubt that the delivery of judiciary transformation is heavily dependent on the competence and the morale of our staff. It is not humane to keep a person on the same salary and without promotion for 10 years. Meanwhile, a staff recognition and reward scheme is being developed, just as the establishment of the Judiciary Fund to cover administrative expenses and other purposes necessary for the discharge of institutional functions was operationalized when Parliament allocated 15.9 billion in the current financial year. The new constitution placed enormous responsibilities on the judiciary, not simply as an arbitrator of disputes and custodian of justice, but also as an important actor and player in the transformational path that Kenyans now seek. Our engagement with the legislature and the executive have been particularly important and fruitful in the past 2 years, during which time our overall budget has grown fourfold, from 3.9 billion 2 years ago to 15.9 billion in the current financial year. For this, we are grateful for the support we have received from Parliament and the National Treasury in appropriating these increased resource allocations. We are particularly grateful to the President and the Speaker for their individual leadership and support in securing the financial independence of the judiciary and setting it towards the path of true institutional independence. The business of transformation, however, requires committed investment for the long term, and I expect that journey that the judiciary has embarked upon is one that will outlive my tenure and that of my successors as well. Our engagement with Parliament and the National Treasury will continue to emphasize this notion of transformation as long-term investment. And as we have noted in our report, we will maintain our pursuit of the share of the national budget that is both equitable in its quantum and progressive in its developmental impact on our national social economy. Only 5 years ago, the overall budget of the judiciary was Kenya shillings 2.1 billion, or approximately 0.5% of the overall national budget. The 2011-12 financial year represented the first budget following passage of the Constitution in August 2010. By acting proactively at the onset, the judiciary was able to secure an increased budget from total of Kenya shillings 3.9 billion to 9.8 billion in 2011-2012, which was reduced to 7.5 billion in the revised estimates. The judiciary has always been able to spend all the money it has requested from Parliament. On a recurrent account, spending levels were at 99.9% across the judiciary. The judiciary is emerging from the culture of chronic underfunding. Its ambitious development plans are unlikely to entirely fit in the national budget. It is for this reason that the judiciary continues to receive support for some of its activities from development partners who are keen to support the institution's rapid transformation. In this regard, the World Bank has committed to support the judiciary with $120 million for the construction of courts over the next 6 years. In the future, however, the judiciary envisages a situation where funding comes entirely from the national budget. Not only would this secure the independence of the institution, but also promotes accountability. In the coming financial year, the judiciary will be seeking an overall increase of 37% of financial resources to build new court stations, expand and rehabilitate existing ones to accommodate more judicial officers, automate case management, network court stations, pay new staff, and meet costs related to hiring more judicial officers. The current budget level represents 1.3% of the total discretionary expenditure, which is a vast improvement on the past, but still significantly below the international benchmark of 2.5% of the national budget for judiciaries. We seek to secure a greater proportion of the national budget over time. Even so, we are sensitive to the fact that there are other calls on the public purse. The judiciary hopes to achieve the 2.5% financing target progressively. Indeed, over the next 3 years, it's expected that the judiciary's share of the budget will be closer to 2%. Finally, we can no longer talk about numbers of cases if there were a stock item in a retail shop. Future allocations of judicial officers will be driven by a combination of performance indicators and actual workload assessment, since we know that not all cases are the same. We must pay as much attention to the expeditious delivery of justice as we do to wider access of justice issues. We must develop a service mentality that sees each case as a person and not as a file. And always we must remember the bottom line: justice delayed is justice denied. The events of the past year, which are captured in this report, affirm that the Constitution is alive and well, and that the Kenyan people were right to choose this as the direction they would like their nation to take. And I thank you.